Hey fans, this is Steve Wilson, the man behind Congo Kong. You're listening to the Tapped Out Wrestling Network.
Hello and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Personified podcast, the Global Force Wrestling edition, and we are part of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. I am your host, Lewis Carlin, and it's always good to be with you each and every week as we talk about the weekly happenings in Global Force Wrestling, the Impact Show, which happens every Thursday. And before we get started, I just have some really big news that I want to announce here. I recently interviewed the man behind Global Force Wrestling superstar Congo Kong, Steve Wilson, and that interview will be on the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network next week. Will be released, I believe it's on Thursday, on Impact Day. So my interview with the man behind Congo Kong, Steve Wilson, coming to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Great interview with him. We spoke about a number of things, from Jeff Jarrett to his chemistry with Laurel Van Ness to how he got started in professional wrestling. So keep your eyes open for that next Thursday. My interview with the man behind Congo Kong, Steve Wilson, Global Force Wrestling superstar. All right, just wanted to get that big news out of the way. And so Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, you can actually follow us on Twitter at Tapped Out Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at PWSOTH, or you can follow the podcast at PW Personified on Twitter. So go there, give us a follow. We always like to get follows here, at the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast and at the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. So go ahead, again, at Tapped Out Pod, at PWSOTH, and at PW Personified. Alrighty, so Global Force Wrestling Impact this week. Some good, some bad. Mixed feelings about the show. I liked some of it and didn't like some of it. Mixed feelings without a doubt. And we saw the saga of Alberto, El Patron, and LAX continued this week. Came to a head this week with LAX, so desperately trying to get Alberto El Patron to join LAX. Of course, he doesn't want to, so they got his family members, El Hijo de Dos Caras, the son of Dos Caras, which is El Patron's brother. And they got his father, Dos Caras. LAX, got him in, basically kidnapped them, brought him back to the clubhouse, and told them they need to convince El Patron to join LAX. And they couldn't get him to join, and they wound up, backstage, they beat down El Patron's brother and Dos Caras, his father, brought him to the ring, beat them down again. Finally, after beating them down for a bit, El Patron finally decides to come out. Family members, if it's my dad and somebody has my dad in a bit of trouble, I'm going to get out there as soon as I possibly can. But they beat his brother down on TV, and they hit him with a kendo stick, LAX. And then they had his father. They were going to take his father's mask off. And finally, El Patron comes to the ring, and gets into a verbal confrontation with Conan. This segment actually ended the show. So had a verbal confrontation with Conan, who he's been calling Carlos. I guess they're on they were good friends, so he's calling him Carlos. And El Patron says, I'll join you guys but you gotta promise me you'll leave my family alone. And Conan's like, you join us and, it's done. Join us and we'll never bother your family again. So, they let his family go, Dos Caras and his brother. They take him out of the ring, and they're able to leave. And El Patron's in the ring, and he says, "Okay, I will join you, but we are not friends anymore, and our friendship is over." And Conan gives him a T-shirt, says, "Here, put the T-shirt on, put on your colors." El Patron puts on the T-shirts, and looked like we had a new member of LAX, but no sir. El Patron turns the tables on them and takes out the entire faction of LAX, gets the kendo stick and beats down LAX, and rips off the shirt and says, he's not joining LAX, and he's on his own. And another interesting thing about this is they dropped the name Rey Mysterio again. The name Rey Mysterio was dropped, so another hint that he might be coming to Global Force Wrestling to assist El Patron in this feud, because right now El Patron is on his own, and Bobby Lashley is they had that one tag team last week, but El Patron's on his own right now. He's got to battle LAX. And, so Rey Mysterio coming in would make a lot of sense. I liked it. I liked the segments. I liked it. I liked how it played out throughout the entire show, getting his family involved. And I liked it. I liked how it played out. I like these segments. Again, they played out through the entire show, and it closed the show with El Patron beating down all the members of LAX, saying he's not joining, and he's basically on his own now. So it's interesting though. It's interesting though, where this feud is actually going to go, because when you think about the big factions, the NWO and the Bullet Club, and had the D-Generation X, all the factions, they had one guy that was a major star. NWO Hulk Hogan, Bullet Club Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, D-Generation X, had Shawn Michaels. So they had the one guy who was their leader and a terrific talent who was worthy of being a world champion. But you don't really have that here right now with LAX. You have Santana and Ortiz, but they're tag team wrestlers. They haven't been built up as a legitimate threat to Alberto El Patron. And I know, Conan's whole thing is he wants El Patron because El Patron has the world title, the Global Force Wrestling world title. So now, since El Patron is not joining LAX, the next logical thing for LAX would be to get the Global Force Wrestling title into LAX somehow, but they just don't have the wrestlers right now. There's nobody in there that's a legitimate threat. Homicide's not really a wrestler anymore. He'll come in once in a while and hit somebody with a gringo killer. Conan's not getting in the ring. He's done. It's not going to be Diamante. She's not a threat to Alberto El Patron. And you got Santana and Ortiz, good wrestlers, good tag team wrestlers though, and they don't pose really any legitimate threat to Alberto El Patron. So what do they do? What are they going to do? They got to go and look for somebody. They got to go out and get someone. And I actually was thinking about possibly getting Mil Muertas, Ricky Banderas from Lucha Underground and AAA in Mexico. He could come in and he could be a hired gun, so to speak, for LAX. And he could be the legitimate threat that LAX could bring in to battle El Patron, because, like I said, right now is really nobody. You might see a match against Santana or maybe a match against Ortiz, but again, like I said, they're not legitimate threats, or they haven't been built up as legitimate threats to the Global Force Wrestling title. So bringing in Ricky Banderas as Mil Muertes would be phenomenal, and it would even make it make more sense for Rey Mysterio to come in and help El Patron in the battle. So we'll see where it goes. As A lot of possibilities. A lot of possibilities here. One thing I don't like, and I touched upon, Santana and Ortiz, is right now, they're the Global Force Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the Unified Tag Team Champions, in Impact Wrestling, with the Impact Tag Team titles and the Global Force Wrestling titles. But they're not defending them. They're in this feud now with El Patron. So the tag team division right now is basically non-existent, like it was during the India tapings. Non-existent. There is no tag team division right now. You're not seeing any tag team matches, which is really, really, something that I don't care for, something I don't like, something that's not good, because you were building up the tag team division. You had great tag teams, of course, Santana and Ortiz. You built them up as a terrific tag team. You had Garza Jr., Laredo Kid, who was chasing them, Falaba and Mario Baccara, great tag team. You had the Veterans of War. So you were building up that tag team division, but now it's non-existent because LAX is in the feud now with Alberto El Patron. So, I don't know what they're doing in the tag team division. That's one thing I don't like about this feud is the tag team division, which was very exciting, is no longer existent in Global Force Wrestling, and I don't know, quite frankly, I don't know where it's going or what they're going to do with it. But, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. We'll see how long this feud with LAX lasts. But again, my suggestion, bring in Mil Muertas to feud with Alberto El Patron over the Global Force Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. That would be very exciting. And please, 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 please sign Rey Mysterio. Bring him in. That would be absolutely phenomenal. Unless they bring in Rey Mysterio and he joins LAX and he's a legitimate threat to Alberto El Patron. There's a lot of possibilities there. A lot of possibilities there. We'll see where it goes. But I hope this tag team division gets back, because they was really rolling for a bit, and now it's just kind of fizzled out. And we'll see where it goes. So that's one thing that happened during the week. We had a great Super X Cup match between Drago and Sammy Guevara. Drago won the match. Love Drago. That freaky tongue thing, though, is still kind of freaks me out. But yeah, Drago, Sammy Guevara, excellent, solid Super X Cup match. Sammy Guevara, very talented. He hit a 630 splash from the top rope. Jesus Christ, that was freaking phenomenal. And lots of high spots. Many high spots by Sammy Guevara. So it's somebody I would definitely love to see again in Global Force Wrestling. But Drago wins the match. Like I said, solid opener. The match opened the show. Solid match. Now Drago will be taking on Desmond Xavier, which should be a terrific match in the next round of the Super X Cup tournament. And I'm loving this tournament. A lot of really good matches, a lot of talents, a lot of good talent they brought in. Loving it. So, the next match is going to be, of course, Davey Richards against Ishimori. I think it's Taiji Ishimori from Pro Wrestling Noah. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. That's going to be a nice, hard-hitting encounter. I'm not sure who's going to go over there. I wouldn't be surprised if either or wins. But again, Super X Cup was just phenomenal so far, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. And the finals will be happening at Destination X. And last week I thought that was going to be another pay-per-view, but apparently it's not, because it's on August 17th, and that's a Thursday. So from what I understand, it's going to be just a live edition of Global Force Wrestling on Pop TV in the US and the Fight Network in Canada. So Destination X, August 17th, live edition of Global Force Wrestling, and we'll have the finals of the Super X Cup tournament, which again has been absolutely fantastic so far. And if they haven't signed Sammy Guevara, please sign him. Very, very exciting wrestler. We'll love to see him again. We'll love to see him against Desmond Xavier, for that matter. That would be a tremendous match. But we'll love to see him against Marshe Rockett. It's somebody we haven't seen in a while. But love to see Marshe Rockett against anybody. Very talented wrestler there, but you just don't see him. But anyway, back to the Super X Cup. Great tournament. Looking forward to the rest of the matches. I'm just absolutely loving it, loving it, loving it. Match 2, we saw Sienna taking on Amber Nova. Now, Amber Nova came out like a ball of fire, and I thought it was going to be a decent match, but it turned out to be just basically a squash match for Sienna. She wins the match with her AK-47 finisher. Quick match, made her look dominant, made the Unified Ladies Champion, well, she's a Knockouts Champion and the Global Force Wrestling Ladies Champion. Made her look really, really dominant. But this is where it started to get a little strange. After she won the match, Sienna calls out Karen Jarrett. Jarrett comes to the ring and they get into a verbal confrontation, and Sienna wants her respect. From Karen Jarrett. Karen Jarrett says, no, you're not going to get the respect, and Sienna gets in Jarrett's face. And here comes Allie running to the ring with a kendo stick. And she hits Sienna a few times with the kendo stick. Here comes Laura Van Ness, jumps on Allie. It's a double team for a bit. Rosemary comes out, and she starts brawling. Sienna and Laura Van Ness they gain the advantage. And then here comes Gail Kim running to the ring, which was a little odd because she's really got nothing to do with this feud. But she runs to the ring, gets involved. Karen Jarrett got a little bit involved as well, a little bit of hair pulling. Just a bit of a huge cluster F in the ring with all of them. And I don't know. Did Gail Kim really need to get involved in this segment? I know she says she's not retiring until after 2000. At the end, she's retiring at the end of 2017. But does she need to Does she need to make a appearance here and run to the ring and clean house? I don't know. And then Karen Jarrett says next week, Sienna, it's going to be you against Rosemary in a last knockout standing match. Okay, that could be exciting. That could be interesting. But this whole thing, seemed to be a bit of a train wreck. I don't know, just Allie running out with the kendo stick, Laura Van Ness, and then Rosemary, and then Gail Kim. I don't know, like, what are they doing with Gail Kim? She comes out, how is she gonna involve in this feud now? Or, I don't know, they could have kept her out of it. They could have, I don't know, Christine Von Eerie, you haven't seen her in a while. They could have done something with her, maybe have her come out and, I don't know, make a challenge to Gail Kim or something. Just do something else with Gail Kim. I just didn't think she needed to get involved in this segment. So again, it was a bit of a train, a bit of a cluster F. But next week could be interesting. Sienna against Rosemary in a last knockout standing match. So that's something to look forward to there. From there, where do we go from there? Match 3, we had, let's talk about Bruce Pritchard for a little bit. He's in the back talking to Conrad Thompson, who's a friend of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Not in person, but he's on the phone talking to Conrad Thompson. And he runs into Trevor Lee. Talking to Trevor Lee, asking him what's going on with the X Division title. And Trevor Lee says, well, he never got a shot at never got his rematch for the X Division title when he lost it. And Pritchard is like, well, you have a point there. And then Sonjay Dutt appears, trying to get his title back. But Bruce Pritchard says, Dutt, not here, not now, get him out of here to security. So security grabs Dutt, and they take him out. Sonjay Dutt is trying to get back what's rightfully his, the X Division title. But Bruce Pritchard says, not here, not now, Sonjay. I didn't get it. Not here, not now, Sonjay. But instead of saying just right there, okay, Trevor Lee, you're going to get your rematch for the X Division title, but you have to give that back to Sonjay Dutt. He doesn't say that. He says, Sonjay, not here, not now. Get him out of here, security. So that didn't make sense unless Bruce Pritchard is turning into a heel. I don't know. It didn't make sense. I don't know. Just very, very confusing. Very, very confusing. And then we had in match 3 was Trevor Lee, Idris Abraham, and Demas, who is one of the AAA minis, against Garza, Laredo Kid, and Octagon Cito, who is made his return. I remember last week it was Octagon Cito against Demas. And Josh Matthews, or was it either Matthews or Barash, indicate that Sonjay Dutt has been banned by Bruce Pritchard for disrupting the show. Sonjay Dutt, who's trying to get back his X Division title, has been banned from the show by Pritchard because he's disrupting the show, just because he's trying to get back what's rightfully his, and that's the X Division title, which Trevor Lee stole from him. Again, it doesn't make any sense at all. It makes no sense at all, unless he's turning heel. But, I don't know. Unless if he's turning heel, okay, this would make sense. But the whole thing is kind of stupid, if you ask me. You had, as I mentioned last week, weeks and weeks ago, when El Patron beat Booby Lashley in his debut on Global Force Wrestling for the Impact title, in controversial fashion, Bruce Pritchard was like, oh, you don't want to win it that way, so we're going to take the title back and give it to Booby Lashley because of the controversial finish. But this is controversial as well, and Trevor Lee steals the X Division title from Sonjay Dutt, who's been trying for 2 weeks now to get his X Division title back, and we have nothing but security holding him back. We have him banned this week by Pritchard for disrupting the show. He only wants his freaking title back. So it's very, very, I don't know, it's very confusing what's going on here on Global Force Wrestling. So I didn't like it at all. But you had the tag team match: Trevor Lee, Idris Abraham, Demas against Garza Jr., Laredo Kid, Octagon Cino, and it was a very, very solid match. And the fans were into it. The fans loved it. Lots and lots and lots of high spots. Garza Jr. did his whole, stop the action while I take my pants off routine, which the crowd is really into. Great stuff. Garza Jr., Laredo Kid, and Octagon Cino, wound up winning the match. Octagon Cino hit a splash to Idris Abraham and to win the match for his team. So Garza, Laredo Kid, and Octagon Cino win the match. Again, terrific match, solid match, good spots. I loved it. Trevor Lee, it was also a little odd with him being in this match. Wrestled the match with the title around his waist for the entire match, which was quite humorous. He just had the belt on for the entire match. I guess he didn't want to put it down, but I guess he didn't have to worry about Sonjay Dutt stealing it back because Sonjay Dutt was banned from the show for disrupting it. So, I don't know, it was, the whole thing was kind of weird. But anyway, the solid match, nonetheless. And, Grado went on his date with Laurel Van Ness. And lots of people didn't like this. I saw it on Twitter, but I absolutely loved it. Great bit here with Grado. Grado goes on his date and he's wearing his wrestling attire on a date with Laurel Van Ness. And I mean, who is going on a date and he decides that he's going to wear his wrestling attire while going on a date with Laurel Van Ness. Great stuff. And Laurel Van Ness in the role of this, jilted bride is just an absolute joy. Just fantastic in this character. I loved how there was a bit where Grado or Laurel Van Ness wanted some pepper, but Grado couldn't reach it, and Laurel Van Ness, in her jilted bride and hot mess character, trying to be sexy, says, "Don't worry, I'll get it," and she starts trying to be sexy, crawling across the table to get the pepper shaker. Just absolutely terrific stuff. I absolutely loved it. Love the bits here. And they did another bit where they were lying down and I think it was in a field. Just great stuff. So there was great stuff. I love it. Just give me more. It's all gonna lead to, in my opinion, Congo Kong versus Abyss, because Joseph Park is involved as well. But Laurel Van Ness, absolute joy to watch here. Just fantastic. And Grado, you gotta love him, man. Going on a date in his wrestling attire. So, job well done, man. So funny. Just so funny. Joseph Park's been hitting a home run in the bits he's been in lately. So all around great stuff here. All around great stuff. We had another terrific, solid match. It was Low Key versus Matt Sydal versus El Hijo de Fantasma, which is Son of the Ghost, and they made a reference that he's actually a King Cuerno in Lucha Underground. So they made a Lucha Underground reference there, which was quite interesting. I don't know if they have they're getting a working agreement going with Lucha Underground, or it's just that, AAA wrestlers, which they have an agreement with, happen to work for Lucha Underground, so they're kind of giving Lucha Underground a plug. But who knows? That's why I mentioned Mil Muertes earlier, from Lucha Underground, so he would be ideal to come in as LAX's hired gun, but we already discussed that. We don't need to go back into LAX and El Patron. So they mentioned, again, Barash mentions that El Hijo de Fantasma is King Cuerno in Lucha Underground. Why he just can't be King Cuerno in Impact Wrestling, unless Lucha Underground owns the name. But anyway, nonetheless, terrific match between the three. Low Key, Sydal, and El Hijo de Fantasma, the Son of the Ghost. A great action, fast paced, what you would expect here. Excuse me, I feel like I'm getting hiccups here. I'm sorry. You don't want to get the hiccups when you're doing a podcast. It won't sound too good. But anyway, back to the match. Great spots here. Matt Sydal went over. Low Key's been on a bit of a losing streak lately, so I guess they've given up on Low Key. So it doesn't look like that push for Low Key is over. He's still coming out wearing the suit, which, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. Never really a fan of the suit, the jacket comes off when he's angry, when he really gets going, towards the end of the match, but I don't know, so he comes out in his, I think, was it Agent 67 or whatever, he's still wearing the suit. But Sydal won the match, very exciting, great work all around by all three wrestlers, but Sydal wins, and El Hijo de Fantasma, for some reason, he has, it says Club Chocolate on his trunks. I don't know what that is, but for some reason it says Club Chocolate. So I don't know. A lot of funny bits going on lately from, on the ROH NXT version of the Pro Wrestling Personified podcast last week. We touched on Joey Daddy Diego's beef. And now we got Club Chocolate on the trunks of El Hijo de Fantasma. Laurel Van Ness as well, making me laugh. So a lot of good, a lot of funny bits happening. in professional wrestling the last few weeks. But yeah, Club Chocolate, that's whatever. Maybe it's a club he owns, or maybe he likes chocolate and he belongs to a chocolate club. I don't know, but it said Club Chocolate on his trunks. But yeah, so Matt Sydal wins a terrific match. Calls down Bruce Pritchard. Says he wants an X Division title match. Bruce Pritchard said he's sick and tired of everybody demanding this and that, and he says there are plenty of other people in the back that are worthy of an X Division title shot. Okay, fine. But I think before we do that, maybe we should get the X Division title back to its rightful owner in Sonjay Dutt, but we can't because he's been banned from Impact Wrestling this week for disrupting the show, or because he wants his X Division title back. So he says that. So Pritchard says that, and plenty of people in the back that are willing of that are deserving, I should say, of a title shot. And here comes Bobby Lashley to the ring, gets into the ring, and says that he wants his world title match, which he had 2 weeks ago and was unsuccessful, even though LAX interferes. But he did have his rematch. I guess he wants another rematch, and says, Bruce Pritchard, you got to make it happen. Matt Sydal takes exception to this, says nobody wants to hear it. He's asking for a title shot. Don't do me like this, Lashley. And Lashley says it has nothing to do with you, Sydal. Says he wants that title shot. Tells Pritchard again to make it happen. But before he leaves, he spears Sydal turns him inside out. It was a great spear. Sydal, sold it well. But Lashley is back. Lashley, I guess, is no longer buddy with El Patron, and he wants a title match with El Patron. So we'll see where that goes. I don't know. I don't know. Is Bobby Lashley going to join LAX? You don't know. Anything can happen here. Anything can happen here. So I don't know. So we got a lot of big question marks going on right now in Global Force Wrestling. But again, so dumb. Sonjay Dutt, banned from disrupting the show because he wants his X Division title. Can't he go to Jeff Jarrett or something, or Karen Jarrett, and just get his title back? I don't know. It's just very, very not well done, and very confusing, and not a fan of the whole Sonjay Dutt, Trevor Lee, Bruce Pritchard scenario right now. Maybe we get Conrad Thompson. Maybe he could come. Maybe he could get to Global Force Wrestling, and maybe he could clear things up for everybody. Because Bruce Pritchard isn't, and Karen Jarrett's not getting involved, and who the hell knows what Dutch Mantel is up to. So, yeah, so anyway, so from there we had our main event. But before the main event happened, which was Eli Drake against Moose versus EC3 versus Eddie Edwards, which on paper is a phenomenal match. But before the match began, Chris Adonis got into it again with the Swole Mates. Yeah, I know. I yawned as it was happening, and just talking about it made me yawn again right now. The Swole Mates were on TV again on Global Force Wrestling. They had another segment with Chris Adonis. And they got into the ring. Chris Adonis sprayed water on them or something, and they got in. They we're going to take that. You can't spray water on the Swole Mates. And Swole Mates got in the ring and tore their shirts off and show that we're jacked up. And they one of them clotheslined Chris Adonis and chased Eli Drake from the ring, and they're posing and we're the Swole Mates, and Jesus, this was so freaking bad. Oh my gosh, I don't know why the Swole Mates are getting TV time and Marshe Rocket is not. It doesn't make sense. It was so bad. I know they're promoting a show. I know Pop TV has this new show, The Swole Mates, and they want to promote it. But please, enough. I don't want to see them anymore. I don't ever want to see them again. I heard the show is horrible. I haven't watched it. I don't want to watch the show because their appearances are pissing me off. But I heard the show is terrible. And they even had a segment backstage where they were getting mic time. They were going to cut a promo. And one of the Swole Mates even said, we're here to promote a TV show. We don't have time for this wrestling bullshit. It was beeped out, but it's wrestling bullshit. If you don't have time for this wrestling bullshit, leave the freaking arena because we don't have time for this Swole Mate bullshit. So there you have it. It was just terrible and it was really pissing me off. I really hope that we don't see them anymore. I don't want to see them anymore. The show has already started. Please, enough with the Swole Mates. Put freaking Marshe Rocket on in a match against Caleb Conley instead. Enough of the freaking Swole Mates. Put on Falaba and Mario Baccara, please. Enough with the freaking Swole Mates. I don't want to see them anymore. I don't want to see them on Impact Wrestling, Global Force Wrestling ever again. Their show will probably be canceled in about 5 weeks anyway, and this whole promotion thing will be meaningless. So please, I don't want to see them anymore. I don't like the Swole Mates. I don't like the segments. Enough. Alright. Anyway. The main event match. Moose versus EC3, Eli Drake and Eddie Edwards. Moose versus EC3 versus Eli Drake versus Eddie Edwards. Great match. Solid match. My guy, and I was very surprised, and I'm very pleased that he won. Eli Drake got the victory. Terrific talent there. Main event talent. One of the best promos in Global Force Wrestling. Finally, they gave him a big win over top stars here in Global Force Wrestling. Finally, they realized Eli Drake deserves a big win. He's one of our best talents. It's about time. I was very happy to see Eli Drake win. Great stuff. Great match. You got Moose is going to be feuding with EC3, but Eli Drake going over here was the right call. Fantastic. Thank you, Jeff Jarrett, for putting over Eli Drake. You haven't really been using him much lately, and I would really hate to see Eli Drake leave Global Force Wrestling. Tremendous talent. As I said, one of the best promos in the business, actually. In the business, I'm going to say. And bravo, bravo, bravo. Thank you. Eli Drake went over here. I would love to see him feud with El Patron. They had the best match of 2017 for Global Force Wrestling. I would love to see him feud with. I would love to see him get a title. Give him the grand title. Just do something. Let him talk. Get him in the ring. Tell the Swole Mates we don't want you here anymore because we got to give some TV time to the best promo in Global Force Wrestling, Eli Drake. That's what they should be doing. So hopefully we'll see a lot more and a lot more meaningful wins for Eli Drake in Global Force Wrestling. So there you have it. Another thing I want to touch on is there's another show. Global Force Wrestling has another show called Explosion. And it's another hour of Global Force Wrestling. Another hour that they have to showcase their talent. But I think they're doing it wrong. They show one match, one new match for Explosion, but then they have a Josh Matthews segment, a talking segment. Then they have a classic match. Then they have the Impact Rewind match, which is just they show the main event of the latest Global Force Wrestling Impact. They're doing it all wrong. You have Explosion. You have another hour. What they need to do is they need to get rid of the Josh Matthews segment because it's boring. It's boring. you gotta get rid of the classic match because they have a show called TNA Classic Matches. It's still called TNA. I didn't make a mistake there. It's still called TNA. So it's TNA Classic Matches. And they need to get rid of the Impact Rewind match because it's on Impact. So not going to really want to watch Explosion to see a match I've already seen on Impact. But what they need to do is they need to showcase the new, younger talent that they have. They need to showcase guys like, and I've said this name for the past few weeks, Marshe Rocket. Tremendous talent. You don't see him that much at all, which is a shame. Falaba, Mario Baccara, Desmond Xavier. You have all these young, talented wrestlers. Make Explosion a show with all the matches. Use the ROH TV format. 3 to 4 matches, new matches every week on Explosion. Showcase new talent because you're not showcasing it on Impact because you're bringing in a lot of talent, but you only have 2 hours and you can only delegate it to. You can't really get everybody on, so you only get certain talent on because you only got the 2 hours. You're wasting time with the freaking Swolemates. So Explosion needs to be a standalone show, kind of like, I don't know, you could even kind of make it like your own NXT show. Just bring in new talent, showcase them on Explosion, and when they're ready, bring them over to Impact. That's my idea. I think it's a good one. I do. I think it's a good idea. I don't know. I don't know what anyone else thinks about that, but you have an extra hour of programming called Explosion. Forget all the repeated stuff and the talking segments. 3 to 4 new matches. Young talent, showcase them. Have Explosion-only feuds. And when they're ready, get them over to Impact. That's my opinion. That's my opinion on Explosion. So there you have it. There you have this week in Impact Wrestling. Before I go, I just want to say one more time that big interview coming up with Global Force Wrestling superstar, the man behind Congo Kong, Steve Wilson, will be, I believe it's next Thursday, so keep an eye out for that one. Great guy. I love talking to him. Love the interview. And again, next Thursday, my interview with the man behind Congo Kong, Steve Wilson, on the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Before I go, I just want to do a few plugs. Just looking for my... Okay, so we are actually part of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. If you want to send us an email, you can send it to tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on Twitter at tappedoutpod. Check me out on Twitter at PWSOTH, or the Pro Wrestling Personified page, which is at PW Personified. We have Facebook pages as well, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, and Pro Wrestling Personified. We both have Facebook pages. You go on there, like us, and join the group. Go to our website, tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast.com. New interview just went up yesterday with professional wrestling legend, one of my heroes, Tommy Wildfire Rich. Nick did a fantastic job in the interview with Tommy Rich. So great job there, Nick. So check it out, tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast.com. Next week I actually have an interview coming out with former WWF enhancement wrestler Jose Luis Rivera. So you can check that out as well. Again, tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast.com. If you love professional wrestling, MMA, you got to get the Fight app. Tons of content on there. The Fight app, you got to get it if you're a professional wrestling or MMA fan. You want to get a T-shirt of one of your favorite professional wrestlers, go to ProWrestlingTees, TEES.com. And if you want terrific content, KayfabeToday.com. Check it out. Lots of good stuff on the website, KayfabeToday.com. Lots of great written content on KayfabeToday.com. So check them out. Check them out today. And don't forget, there's the other podcast, the Pro Wrestling Personified Ring of Honor and NXT edition. This week, I had a guest host from Kayfabe Today, the Ring of Honor contributor for Kayfabe Today, Luke Dorsch. He joined me. Was an absolute blast sitting down with him talking ROH and NXT. So check that out as well. And that's it for me. And the Pro Wrestling Personified podcast, the Global Force Wrestling Edition. So, for the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, I am Lewis Carlin. Thank you again for joining me, and I will be back next week to discuss more awesome Global Force Wrestling action. And don't forget, coming up next week, this Thursday, Impact Day, my interview with the man behind Congo Kong, Steve Wilson. Just wanted to throw that in there one more time. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Until next week, take care. Bye-bye. Stay safe.